Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to Where the Road Rises with me, your host, Eileen Kerlin Walsh. Back in 2018, I brought to you a teenage Samantha Malone, a delightful intern at my office that I was so impressed with. Not just with Samantha's abilities, but the wisdom that sat on her young shoulders. On the show, we talked about generational differences, and Samantha reassured us by her personality and by her interview that the great values we characterize in the baby boomers and Gen Xers, grit, hard work, and integrity, live on in our millennials and Gen Zers. Fast forward to 2025, and Samantha, no longer Malone, but Giesey, is managing attorney at Kerlin Walsh Law. As a young girl, Samantha dreamed of two things for herself: going to college and having a family of her own one day. In 2016, she received a full academic scholarship to Northern Illinois University. In her years as an undergraduate, Samantha was editor-in-chief of the student news organization, managing 50 students and working as a freelance writer for other organizations. Despite a deep love for journalism, Samantha knew that career would not allow her the family life she dreamed of. So in 2020, amid the COVID-19 pandemic, Samantha earned her bachelor's degree in communication and turned her sights to law school. Samantha is in her second year now at Kerlin Walsh Law, and we could not be happier to have her. Samantha will tell us today why she chose law as a career and why she feels at home in the healing law. Welcome, Samantha.
Thank you.
Why don't you start off by reminding us how you grew up, where you grew up, and your journey to law? Did you have a mentor, a role model, someone you looked up to? How did you get to where you are today at such a young age?
Sure. I grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago in a very nuclear family with both my parents and a younger brother. But in 2008, my parents kind of went full force toward my mom's dream and to pursuing her career as a photographer. So I was in my early teenage years then, I think, and it was a big shift for our family. But I always kind of deferred to her as my first role model because as a young girl, it was very empowering to see my mom go out and just pursue her dreams and pursue her career, and to have the support of the men in her life. My dad was very supportive of that. So for them to kind of put all of their eggs in that basket and to see what her business has grown into today, I think that showed me that I as a woman can also do anything that I want to do, including be a fantastic mother and having a successful career. And she also introduced me to you at a very young age, and so I would say that influenced my desire to go into law as well. You know, we mentioned that I interned with you for a summer back before committing to law school, and I think that showed me that this was a field that I was interested in and that you could connect with people in a really deep way and help others. So I think the two of you have been forces to be reckoned with as women in my life, and I would say you're both role models in that degree.
Thank you, and I think that requires a shout out for Angel Photography. Yeah. Samantha's mother is Angel Malone, who has a photography business right here in our own backyard, and she is wonderful. So Samantha, after graduation you worked for a general practice law firm. So what brought you back to Kerlin Walsh Law?
Sure. I think when I graduated, I felt like I needed to step out on my own and earn my own a little bit. And that's what brought me to that general practice firm. About 6 months in, I realized that I just felt I wasn't helping others with my degree. And as a first generation college student, let alone law student, it's always been important to me to be able to use my education and the resources that I have to help others. And I felt like I wasn't really able to do that in the capacity that I wanted to there. I loved it. I loved my work. But just something was really calling me to connect deeper with people. And after you and I spoke, I felt that this was a really great opportunity to kind of connect some of those dots that were missing for me there. And journalism, you talk a lot to others about their stories, and we get to hear a lot of stories here at Kerlin Walsh Law, and I've really enjoyed that, connecting with people again.
Oh, I love that. And Samantha, you have the perfect warmth and competence that characterize Kerlin Walsh Law. You also, by working for us, chose a small family-oriented practice as opposed to big law. You could have went to Washington. You could have went for a big corporation downtown. Why did you choose a family-based practice?
Yeah, I think, again, just going back to my mom starting her business, I felt very scary when she started, but to see how much that's grown for her and what that's done for her. And my dad is also a business owner now. So now I've got two parents that are small business owners, and it's been really impressive as their child to watch them pursue that and to see what they could turn that into. And I think the impact that you can have with a small office, it's just so much greater than big law and going and doing that. It just, there were a lot of reasons, but one I think is the impact that we can bring to the people we touch in our community, but also the impact that I can bring and the value that I can bring to our practice, because I have such a critical role, and I feel very involved and very direct with all of that, and that's something that's just personally fulfilling for me.
Lovely. And you are already our managing attorney, Samantha, so you do have a critical role at the office. What are some of the challenges you face as this beautiful young attorney when you are in these very serious legal consultations?
Yeah. I think I have always looked a bit young for my age, so I would say that my youth shows, and I think sometimes it's a surprise to people. They don't always realize that I'm an attorney when I walk in. So I've learned to introduce myself as Samantha, an attorney with our office, just to let people know that they're in good hands, in hands that have in fact graduated from law school, and that have the knowledge to be able to guide them on all of their needs. So navigating just being early in my career, I think it's important for me to be confident and comfortable letting other people know that I'm confident in my ability to guide them and help them through their estate planning journey.
Great. And Samantha, many of our clients, as you alluded to when you talked about the difference between a litigation firm and an estate planning firm, many of our clients are ill. Some of them are elderly. We have many clients both in probate and trust administration who are picking up the pieces after a loved one has passed away. So all of that calls for a very gentle touch. How do you connect with our clients with what they're going through?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, I think that you learn to handle grief as you go through life. And I think that a lot of people my age have maybe not experienced quite as much grief as I have. And that is something that sticks with me. We started losing family members when I was quite young. So I became really adept with grief and handling that. And most recently, my husband and I experienced our own loss when we found out that I was pregnant, and we lost our son at 18 weeks pregnant, and that was just a few months ago, so I apologize for being emotional. But that was just a few months ago, and before that I thought that, gosh, I know how to grieve, I know how to handle this, I'm so mature. And now you just learn that there are other kinds of grief, and there's a whole lot of kinds of grief, and you just never know what other people are experiencing. And so in experiencing that, this has been the toughest loss of my lifetime. It came at the same time as I lost my grandfather. This has been a very challenging few months, but I have found that I appreciate being able to connect with our clients on that level. Some who have also lost children or parents or grandparents, and it's still very fresh for them. So in the same way that I needed my space to grieve. They need that too, and being able to understand that in the context of my own life, I think allows me to kind of hold their hands a little bit differently through their struggle. And really, like, nobody wants to deal with, you know, the legalities of losing somebody. I think it's a difficult thing. We had to deal with so many of those decisions in the immediate aftermath of losing our son Bennett. And it was hard, but in this role as an attorney, I get to, yes, use my grief and experience to connect with them, but I also get to use my knowledge to take some of that weight off of their shoulders so that they can focus on grieving and remembering their loved ones instead of worrying about, in the case of probate or trust administration, you know, how to get properties transferred and how to go to court. Like, we can do that for them. And so in that way, I feel like I get to give them a little bit more room to breathe and to catch their own breath in the same way that they kind of give that back to me.
Oh, thanks, Samantha. I know that's hard to talk about, and you have also reached out to other women who have had miscarriages, often considered an invisible loss, and you've kind of reached out to help other people going through what you've gone through. You're a writer, you're a beautiful writer, you're also a singer-songwriter, and you've shared your story with others who have gone through what you have gone through.
Yeah, I think particularly in the case of miscarriage, we don't talk about it very often. It is kind of a silent loss, and I'm a talker, I'm a writer, I have a big mouth, I like to talk. So I think that for me, in this position, with the family support that we have, with the career support that my husband and I both received from our employers, we even in this time of loss, we feel very lucky, very fortunate to have the resources and support that we have. And so it's important, it's incredibly important to me to step into almost an advocacy role as we grieve and you know, as we navigate this, to take what we have and be able to provide that to others. It's a gift, and it's something that, you know, I consider that my son gave to me, is this ability now to help others in this way as well.
Samantha, and through that experience, you realized the importance of estate planning at any age. We often talk about those who are retiring, those who are in their later decades, but we should estate plan at any age. So why do you think it's important for even young couples like you, those in their 20s, to get their wills, their trust, their powers of attorney in place?
Sure. My pitch to all of my friends is, if you own a house, you need an estate plan. And I think we're right in the age bracket where people are purchasing homes and becoming first-time home buyers. So owning a home is a great reason to start thinking about estate planning, because you really just truly never know what's going to happen in life. But also, you know, in that vein, when we did go through this loss and this experience, it was the first time that I had a major medical event in my life. And I work in this field. I'm very comfortable as a 27-year-old, you know, facing my mortality and saying that we need these kinds of documents. But in the hospital, you know, being in that situation, all I was thinking about was, I need a power of attorney for healthcare. I hope my husband can make these decisions in the event that I need him to. And, you know, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I adamantly remember very seriously considering calling you to get my power of attorney done. Luckily, we didn't need it at that time, but, you know, that was just something that was weighing really heavily on me. Among all of the emotions I was feeling, I was very concerned that, you know, who's going to make my medical decisions. So I think that age doesn't necessarily need to play a factor into when you start estate planning, because we don't know what's going to happen in life. And as soon as you turn 18, your parents can't step in to make those decisions for you. And maybe they're not the person you want to make those decisions for you. So I just think it's important all around to consider at any stage, making sure that you're protected.
I love that you make that point, that it's important to have the documents in place when we're not in crisis, so that when something happens, the last thing you need to be thinking about is the legalities. And that's why we do the heavy lifting. As you said, Samantha, trust administration after someone passes, probate, as you said, we want to hold their hand, we want to do the heavy lifting, we want to let them grieve and know that everything is being taken care of. We're just so delighted to have you at Kerlin Walsh Law. We feel very, very lucky. And viewers, if you'd like to meet Samantha, just stop on by and we will introduce her to you. On a philosophical note, Samantha, as a 20-something looks back at life, what do you make of it now? Are you optimistic about the future for your children's children? How are we doing?
Yeah, I rewatched my interview from, I think it was like 2018 when I was on before, and we talked a lot about like technology and work ethic and generational differences. I do have hope. I think we're trending. I think that kids that are growing up now are going to have a really big impact on the future. But I also think that some of those things that we talked about then kind of persist, and some of them maybe in more present ways. I think that we all could learn from talking to each other and having conversations. And I think that's the most important thing that we could do right now, is just talk to people, have conversations, even if they have differing opinions, perspectives, life experiences. I am a strong believer that your life experiences shape you more than necessarily your age. I'm 27, I've been through a lot of things. My husband's the same age. He's been through some stuff, but probably fewer things than me. But we have an understanding of each other. We talk through our differences. And I think if you can just meet everybody from a place of we're all human, we're all striving for the best, we can make a lot of progress that way. So I just would encourage people to keep talking to each other and sharing opinions.
So in this world of electronics and AI, there's still a need for deep human connection.
Absolutely, yeah.
I love that, Samantha. So what about some advice to some young teen who's watching, who loves how successful you have been and would like to follow in your footsteps?
Sure. The first thing I would say is that I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do for a career my entire life. I pretty much knew that I wanted to be a mom, but I did not know what I wanted to strive for in a career other than wanting to go to college. And when I was going into college, that was really scary. It was a big fear that I felt very much like I had to know. I had to choose my degree and my career path. And the truth of the matter is that I just kept going to school, and I just kept doing things that came, taking opportunities that came to me, doing things that felt good, doing things that were fun, and just kept growing. And 7 years later, I'm very happy. I graduated law school. That was an incredible move for myself. And a law degree has so many options too. It's very versatile. You get to choose and explore these different things. And so I just think it doesn't matter if you know what you want to do or not. It matters if you know the things that you're interested in. And if you pursue those things and you take steps towards those things, the right doors will open, the right people will find you. And, gosh, I feel so lucky to be here in the position that I'm in, managing people, having a title of managing attorney at, just a few years out of law school. That's a really huge opportunity for me. And I never would have guessed that that was where I would be, but I put in the work, I followed my interests and kept all of my connections open, and I think that's what's important, is exploring your interests and keeping your options open and meeting people, of course.
Take whatever opportunity opens up in front of you, those doors. I love that. Favorite quote, poem to end on?
Gosh, I don't know. Actually, I do have a favorite poem. It's called The Dash. I haven't thought about it in a long time, but it's about, my mother read it to me when I was, I think in probably middle school, and I just really latched onto it. And the concept of the poem is, on your headstone, there's your birth date and your death date, which are important dates, but what's really important is the dash in between and how you spent your time living that dash. And I think that, particularly with Bennett in mind, the dash is very small, but the impact is still so great. And so, it's about what you do during your life, I think, that matters most.
chills. Thank you so much, Samantha, for taking the time to introduce yourself to our audience. And thank you, audience, for watching, for listening. And as we approach the height of summer, get out there into the sunshine and go barefoot at least once before it's over. Until next time on Where the Road Rises, goodbye.